Oh, goody.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again. And today we've got some heroic Alterac Valley guides. So we got 4 new bounties recently. There are actually 6 on the page, but only 4 of them are usable right now. The other 2 are coming a little later, but wanted to get a guide out there. Was a little busy this week, had some real life stuff to take care of. So this is coming a little later than I would have initially liked, but I figured we'll just throw all of them right here in one video and we'll have the timestamp. So if there's anyone you need to see, you can just go right to it. Make things nice and easy. First one we are going to start off with here is Heroic Rotimer. Before we get into it though, if you enjoy this type of content, do remember to like and subscribe. It really does do a whole ton to help out the channel and keep videos coming. We're going to be using orcs for this. Basically, the comp we are using revolves around using pretty much all the orcs we can. One important thing to note, you do need the mercenary that is that this equipment unlocks in your party to get the unlock. I know that's one thing a few people asked me about, saying they didn't get the unlock. You do need, in this case, Yulan in your party. Otherwise, if you complete the bounty without him in the party, you will not get the unlock. So just going through my items here, you can see everything available. Pretty simple stuff. We're going to speed through the initial bounties. Definitely one piece of advice with these is don't be afraid to take your time on the bounties here, because they are harder than they have been in the past. Especially this first one. I think there are like 2 that really kind of struck me as a lot more difficult than they were the previous time. The bosses this time around really aren't quite as bad, especially compared to stuff like Drekthar. The bosses are actually all pretty reasonable, assuming you have the kind of right strategy in mind, but the actual fights getting there are harder. I would say they're actually a lot harder, and you do have to pay attention to some of these characters' abilities. Like, I'm used to just kind of face rolling the PvE with, you know, fire comp, nature comp, whatever I'm farming with at the time, but I tried that, and without like paying attention to their abilities and skills and stuff, and it was harder than it had been in the past. I've kind of noticed a trend with that where they are trying to make these bounties a bit harder, which I don't necessarily mind, but the actual fights themselves you do have to be mindful of, because some of these characters you do need for the actual fights. So you want to make sure that they are staying alive, and some of the kind of PvE enemies that are unique to this new area pack a lot more of a punch than we're kind of used to seeing from, you know, areas before Alterac Valley. And this was true in the initial 6 bounties as well. Also, I think we do know those 2 additional bounties will be coming at the end of the Chi-Ji event, which I believe ends on March 8th. So that's an idea of when we can get there. But we are at our first boss here. So there are 3 units, and basically these 2 on the side here, they're just making their stuff really, really fast. So we end up going with a Thrall lead, as well as Sorrowfang and Grom here. And basically what we're going to be doing is, I believe we're going to be focusing down the unit on the right first. We want to deal with the left unit and the right unit to kind of shut those speed buffs down. Worth noting, we are running the equipment on Thrall so that whenever one of our orcs gets attacked, it is gaining health, which is very, very helpful, both in the lead up to this fight and in the fight itself. So here we're going to focus the unit on the right first. Just try and get in there for as much damage as we can, while keeping our guys healthy. That's kind of why I decided not to attack in with Thrall on the first turn. Or not Thrall, Grom, rather. So he actually dies swinging into us, which is great. This was actually my first attempt doing this, so it worked pretty well, all things considered. Like I said before, it's probably harder to actually get to the boss than it is to actually beat these bosses. But if you take your time and you pay attention to what your opponents are doing, or I guess the CPU in this case is doing, it's really not super duper hard. I did bring Rokar in the backline here. You could swap this out with something like Samuro. That's also a good choice. But, you know, as long as you have some good reds and good greens, the orcs seem to do really well just because of all their scaling. So if you can grab any of those treasures that make them even bigger along the way, that's always a good idea as well. But our focus here, we're just going to be trying to kill the one unit we can actually attack, because the other one is in stealth, so we are not allowed to target it. And here you can see that that extra HP coming in really clutch there, actually. And even though we do end up losing a few units in this fight, we still have more than enough to complete it. That's the nice thing about actually if you can get to the bounty with, you know, 5 units, 6 units, makes it definitely easier. So here they get off some damage, but it's not really a big deal. We finally kill that unit, and our non-targeting attack actually lets us hit through stealth, and we are able to just quickly kill it. So that is our first bounty here, and this is going to unlock the third item for Yulan, the Red Dragon. I've actually seen some really cool ideas with this character in terms of dragon comps, so I'm really excited to try him out. Yeah, Pearl of Yulan. Alright, getting into the next one here. This is going to be for Heroic Ichman. So we're using a fire comp for this. Ragnaros with his extra fire damage, Alex with her second item, Baron Geddon with his second item. We need Longjin in there to get the bounty. Balinda's kind of a flex slot, and then Localar. So you could kind of run other stuff in place of Balinda here. Balinda's definitely not required. However, I did find her ice elemental ability to be kind of handy. So if you are looking for a good, you know, last slot there, Balinda's a pretty good choice in my opinion. But she's definitely not required for this. But she's good. So if you know, leveled her up for PvP, 'cause she's a very popular character, definitely consider throwing her in your comp here. But fire just does a really good job of clearing through this bounty. This one, I think, wasn't quite as hard. Again, you just have to be careful of some of the specific units like we're seeing in this fight, like the characters on the left and the middle. They do have some powerful abilities. Even if you do have, you know, fully leveled, fully maxed characters, your characters can go down. So you do want to kind of strategically plan around that if you can. Basically, you know where those spirit healer coins are. Try and, you know, line them up on your path. I wouldn't even worry about focusing on the mystery node for the mysterious stranger unless you know, really feel like doing it. I think it's more efficient when you're doing these heroics to just kind of focus on the task at hand, focus on making sure you have a spirit healer somewhere along the way in case one of your units does die during the climb up there, because I did find that to happen more than you would expect. So these do take a bit of time. It probably took me better part of an hour to do all 4 of them, maybe a little bit over that. And that was with me getting them on pretty much my first attempts at the bosses. So definitely, you know, takes a little bit longer than some of the bounties we have had in the past. But I don't really mind the challenge. It's more interesting than, you know, just mindlessly pressing the same buttons over and over again. However, I do still really wish they would increase the rewards for heroic, as I think they are still pretty minuscule relative to the time and effort you have to put in to complete these fights. So this is our last fight before the boss here. Take care of them, no problem. And that character actually has Jaina's ice block, so we're at the boss. And we can see he is a 350, so that is a very large amount of attack. It was pretty nice. We actually got the treasure for Localar for this free taunt. Taunt was pretty useful, so if you see that along the way, definitely is not a bad choice. And we can see he is immune from attacking, so we're going to actually start with Balinda, Rag, and Localar here. And I actually make a mistake in this fight. I tried to use the elemental to get a freeze. That was actually kind of why I led with the Balinda. But turns out I wasn't paying quite as much attention as I should have. Because as we'll see here, he's actually, you know, immune to those direct attacks. So the taunt saves us some really nice damage there. Like I said, the Balinda elemental goes, but We get some big damage off there between Localar and Ragnaros. And now I'm just going to put some more damage on him here. Just keep spamming these abilities. I think this was actually probably the easiest of the 4 fights, in my opinion. However, he does have a death rattle, so he is going to spawn more stuff when he dies. We do actually get the rag snipe on the proper target there. I guess if it hit the other, would have been slightly better, because then it would have hit both, but it's really not a big deal that it missed. We're just going to go for it again. And you could do this with other members of the comp for sure. As you see, spawns 2 more units here, and they do actually attack right away when they are spawned, but they deal less damage. It's 25 and 15, which is a lot less than 50, and Rag just cleans the green one up really quick, and we should be able to just burst down this last red, and that's going to be the fight. So this one really wasn't that bad. Probably the easiest of the fights, and you could do it probably with bunch of different combinations of what we have here. Like you could go Rag, get, and lock. Lock and Rag are basically the 2 big ones for this fight, it seems. The 3rd slot for this fight, kind of a flex. You can put in pretty much any of the other members from the comp, and we didn't even lose a mercenary in that fight, so that went really well. And we do get some long gen coins, which is nice, and we're going to see the equipment pop here. Very nice. And that is our 2nd bounty down. So for number 3 here, Balinda Stonehearth. Balinda, I think, is one of the fights that is a bit more challenging. I mean, the fight itself is not really hard if you have the right comp, but if you do not come prepared with the right comp for this, even on normal, you're going to have a bad time. And the reason for that is because Balinda actually has a ability that makes it so she sets the current health all the way down to 1 for your characters for a turn. And so that makes it really easy for her to snipe you down, as well as her summons. So because of that, we do end up running Holy Comp here and a lot of healing, because that ability also does give us bonus healing when she activates that. So just makes sense to run Holy with when Cornelius and Velen. They're also just good for clearing through the bounties. You'd have to be a little bit careful here, though. And yeah, so you do have to be a little bit careful here, because I think I do have one of my units die on the way up here, but I think I got a Spirit Healer. So that was very helpful. Definitely made things a little bit easier on me. And in terms of treasures for this one, you probably just want stuff that makes your team bigger or additional holy damage. Those are going to be the biggest ones that you want to be going after on your way up to the boss. Holy does a pretty good job with this one, though. Yep, there you see, Cornelius ended up dying, but we do have a trusty Spirit Healer to come in, save the day, because we are going to need Cornelius for the boss. Alright, so we're at the boss here. Only had that 1 death, and we were able to revive from it, which was very handy. Balinda has 2 summons here, and they're not that scary. Holy is just kind of the perfect comp for this, so we do our standard Anduin, Cornelius, and Velen. They have some nice buffs here, which is helpful as well. And we're just going to taunt up on 1. We're going to get some damage off on the Balinda, because she has the most health. The most important thing is that you are healing up on the 2nd turn, because that is when she's going to activate her ability to set the health to 1. We're going to see that here, so you do want to hold the front up to heal your units, then Velen's Blessing and Holy Nova. So we will see her ability here, but we gain 10 heal power, so our heals are boosted a ton. As you can see, we heal right back up, no problem, and we're dealing a lot of damage at the same time, right? Dealing like over 40 damage. And we're stacking more holy damage on the Velen, which is great. Also, Holy Word Salvation is really useful too for the off turns of this fight. Obviously, you can just keep going for damage if you want, and you will get residual healing that way. But I did find when you can weave in a Holy Word Salvation, it is handy because, you know, pretty much totally denies their AoE and other attacks, and it definitely helped my Cornelius stick around and survive. So we're just going to do the same thing here, and it's pretty much just a bunch of rinse and repeating. They're going to set us to 1, we're going to heal back up and nuke their board, and it's just going to be doing that over and over again a few times until they run. Their summons are going to die, and then Balinda does have effectively Jaina's ice block, so the first time you do hit her with lethal damage, she is not going to die, so do keep that in mind. But once that's popped, you can just hit her again the next turn, and she will be done. So we're healing up some more. Even without the Holy Word Salvation, we still just have a ton of healing here to keep ourselves nice and safe. And due to the speeds of these opposing characters, we will always get off our AoE and healing before they have a chance to knock us down at 1 HP, which is very nice. So here we get rid of her spawn. I think the next turn, or I guess 2 turns, we will get rid of the fire and ice summons, and then it should be super easy to kill Balinda. So Holy's definitely your go-to for this one. I imagine it would probably be very challenging without Holy, because you do kind of need some kind of big healing mechanic. But maybe there's some kind of interesting comp with this with Chi-Ji when she comes out. However, at the time of recording this, she is not out yet. She will be dropping next week during the event. Then you do kind of need pretty mass healing. You do get a boost though, so maybe it's possible to do this with something like nature, but I haven't tried it, so I'm not sure. But we do get her block popped, and now we are able to just quickly pick her off, and really not that bad of a fight. Didn't even lose a mercenary. Was pretty good. And this will get us the equipment for the new Ox character, I believe, if I recall correctly. Yeah, New Zhao. I think people are definitely sleeping on him. I think you're going to be able to do some cool stuff with him. So here we have our next comp. So we have our heroic Ivus. We're running nature here. Basically your standard nature equips, appetizers on the cookie, life root stat on the mouth, first item on our Anaconda, and chain lightning on the Brucon, appetizers on the cookie. Pretty simple stuff. And this is for Zhuen. He is the new green tiger. And he's definitely one of the mercs I'm most excited for out of this drop. I know Mullahu was really kind of high on him. And after seeing him messed around with a little bit, I definitely think there could be something there. So I think this was the bounty that was kind of tied with the first bounty for one of the harder ones for me, at least getting to the bounty. Again, the actual fight itself wasn't too bad. I do believe we do lose a merc or two along the way in that fight, but we do go into that fight with a full team, so have a whole slew of nature options. You do want to protect your Malfurion, though, if you can, because his healing is basically what really helps you sustain through the fight. This is also true for Brucon, because the amount of scaling he gives you is just pretty nuts. He's a really, really strong character. So those are the two that you really want to try and protect at all costs, both going up to the boss and in the main fight itself. So definitely keep an eye out for those spirit healer coins if you are having a hard time along the way. So now we're just getting through these bounties here. Like I said, with some of these new characters, you do want to be careful because I made the mistake of not reading one of the abilities one time, and it resulted in a character growing to like almost 100 attack and almost 200 health, and that wasn't good. That definitely ended a run before it could even really begin. So you do have to be a little mindful, especially if you're seeing characters that aren't mercenaries you're familiar with from the regular pool that we have access to. If they're like PvE specific ones, some of these Alterac Valley units are definitely stronger. You know, they pack a bit more of a punch. They have some more powerful abilities. All right, and that should be wrapping up our regular fights here for this one. And yeah, now we're getting into the Ivus fight. So here we are. He does have 2 summons. He is a red himself, and he has 2 blue summons. So basically, what we're going to end up leading with here is going to be a Malfurion, Brucon, and Anaconda lead, I believe. And I just wanted to have one of the greens out early on to kind of help deal with the side units. Basically, that's going to be our focus. We need to kill off these blues before we can really start focusing the main unit, as they do have an effect where they will go dormant after taking a certain amount of damage and spawn some more summons. So you do have to be careful with that. So we're just going to focus down the unit on the right here first for the most part. I think a little bit about damaging the Ivus, but I think I ultimately changed my mind. Yep. Basically just get these units gone because they're going to be kind of a pain. And once they're gone, the fight gets much easier. But it's really not super hard of a fight with nature. I think nature just does a really, really good job of dealing with this because you can just keep scaling up your damage and you have very nice healing with all your skills through Malfurion. So I think we are going to kill off this one on the right here over the next 2 turns. And I was actually looking at their speeds here to determine if I wanted to ramp up more, but I did want to get it gone before it did get an ability off, so that is what we are ending up doing. One important interaction to note, and we'll see it here in a minute, once Ivus goes dormant, basically you have to be careful with things like Brucon's Chain Lightning, because it does not pass over Ivus. If it tries to go through there, because assuming that's, there's a unit on the other side and that's the only way it can go, it will not hop over Ivus and it will pretty much just cancel the Chain Lightning. So definitely want to avoid that if you can. So we do get some good Chain Lightning damage off here. Deals an absolute ton to the Ivus. Very good. We do get a little bit unlucky here though, and lose our mouth. So I was a little bit annoyed by that. Didn't hit the Brucon like at all, which is a little ridiculous, but you don't really need mouth for the whole fight. It'll probably be easier if you did have him, but you definitely, he's not a requirement. As long as you're keeping either him or Brucon alive, you'll probably have a fine time. So here we see him go dormant like I talked about before. The interesting thing, if you had abilities queued before, they will just auto-target the new summons. So that's a good thing, very helpful, and good to keep in mind. So with these treants, they have an ability where whenever one of these treants dies, it basically makes the ability stronger of the other ones for that turn, which is interesting, kind of a cool design there. But they don't really deal a ton of damage, so you don't really you don't really have to worry about them a ton, unless like you kill, I guess, 2 of them in the same turn and you're at low health, but they're really not that hard to deal with, in my opinion. They're also neutral units, so they're not taking any super effective damage, but they're also not dealing any, so it's a pretty decent trade-off.
Job's done.
And here we're just going to basically clean these up nice and easy. Another treant down, and that leaves the last one here. They do get an extra hit off, but no big deal. We can snipe it down now. And again, you do want to target... I actually kind of forgot here. I should have targeted that with another ability, like the lightning bolt here. I actually got lucky with the Brucon passive is what sniped that down. I have a Brucon passive where at the start of turn it just deals 6 damage, so that actually just sniped it down. I should have gone for the other nature ability, though. We hit it again. He does get a AoE off, which unfortunately does kill our Anaconda. We hit him for some more big damage, and that causes him to go back into being dormant and summons some more treants. So pretty much the same as before. I actually wanted to test the chain lightning, which is how I found out about this interaction. I kind of figured it might just jump over him to the one on the other side, but as we're going to see here, that is not actually what ends up happening. So we got 2 more left, and both pretty low health. We'll be able to knock them out this turn, and I think we can just finish Ivus off pretty easily from there.
Job's done.
Yep. Pretty easy, not too bad at all. So, as long as you have Brucon or Malf stick around, it's not too bad of a fight. It's really just all about that good nature synergy, and that is the last of our 4 heroic bounties here. Like I said before, this one's for Zwen, so getting his item, I think it's his best item actually, the Celestial Chestplate, increasing the attack that Pounce ends up stealing, which is really cool. So those last 2 bounties that I'm mousing over here are locked, like I said, until the end of the event, which is going to be on March 8th. And that event does start tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, sorry. That event does start Tuesday. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and I will try to have some guides out for the tasks of that event. Spoiler alert, level up your beasts and dragons now, because you're going to need them. And here we just take one more quick look back over the comp. Nature's really good. You can mix it up a little bit if you want, but I definitely recommend doing nature for this fight. But that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.